Namaste and good morning, good evening to most of you, and good morning, Sean. And very quickly, if you can hear me, just click on the yes button so I can see you guys can all hear me. All right, perfect. All right, let's get started. I don't know if anybody, if you had the time to go through this PDF that we had shared with you of part one of my book. If you did, great. If not, I thought I will, just want to talk about what are the things that are important for you as an Ayurveda counselor. This book is still a work in progress because it's still getting edited. But, I just had to share it with the students because it's an important part of your learning. I have taught literally thousands of students over the last 12 to 15 years. And the entire text is based on what is it that you need to know if you're starting from scratch. So if you have got started in reading it, that's fantastic. It starts with a verse, Narayanam namaskritya naramachaiv narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Knowledge of Ayurveda and studying Ayurveda is not like, studying Western medicine or going to a regular school. It is, you have to open your heart, and it's a spiritual knowledge as much as it is a scientific knowledge. The closest thing, if you've ever gone to a yoga class or even Tai Chi, the closest thing that'll come to, studying Ayurveda in detail is yoga. That's the only thing I can think of. Because you're not just learning from your brain, you're not just absorbing information, clinical information, you're learning a new language, you're also learning, you're also growing spiritually. So always in India, when we start a class, we always start with a mantra. It doesn't have to be just in a yoga class. A good yoga class will always start with a mantra. One of the mantra that we use in India is Om Namami Dhanvantari Adi Devam Surasuraira Vandit Padapadmam Loke Jararuka Bhaimrityunashanam Dhataramisham Vivid Aushadhinam. I will take time and explain it one of these days, but any mantra that works with you that you know right now is a good thing. Or if you don't know a mantra, just praying to Goddess Saraswati, who's the goddess of learning, or praying to your guru that may this knowledge manifest in you. And may this knowledge manifest in all of us. May Ganesha remove all our obstacles. So every day when you start studying, take 1 minute out to center yourself, ground yourself, and pray to Saraswati or your guru, or just universal energy to help you absorb this knowledge. So last week, let's go here. We had, you had been introduced to Ayurvedic medicine, and I'm hoping you've actually read these 3 pages that I'd asked you to read. And one of the things there was is introducing Ayurvedic medicine to a layman or your client. And I had said to you, this is basically, if you were to print this portion out, that's all you need to know basically. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kind of simplified explanation of what exactly is Ayurveda. If you yourself don't know what Ayurveda is, how are you going to explain it to your future clients? So it doesn't matter where a person is asking you, you should be able to explain Ayurveda to a 3-year-old, to to an elderly person, someone who doesn't speak your language, or to a physician. So I hope you were able to read this. And I'm going to start the class by asking you to actually finish this entire chapter, Brief History of Ayurveda. I did a lot of research in order to understand the history of Ayurveda. And there's so many in India, there's so many. Honestly, the records go back 5,000 years as far as Ayurveda go, but it's a lot from my research, because the knowledge was passed from guru to disciple in in an oral form, they would just sing all the verses, and they would just be an intern. Like a sorcerer's apprentice, people would be an apprentice of an Ayurvedic Vaidya. So it wasn't written before that. So we say Ayurveda is 5,000 years old, but it's a lot older than that. A lot older. So if you find time, try and read it. So finish page 6, 7, and up till page. This 8 and 9 page is simply what is happening in United States and India, and how is Ayurveda different in United States and India. So up till all the way till page 10. So if you could finish up to page 10, that would be fantastic. And I'm going to talk about Ayurveda and other holistic health modalities right now. Just wanted to introduce you. All right, hang on a second. Can everybody see my screen? Can everybody see the screen? Oh, perfect. All right. So without further ado, make sure you've read up till page 10, and this is kind of the last portion of that section 1, Ayurveda and other holistic health modalities. Why do we want to have a little bit of knowledge of Ayurveda compared to other health modalities? If you want to know where we stand and how we can be compared. For example, I've had people say, I just had, in fact, a phone call from someone a few days ago, and she wanted to make an appointment, and she got my number from someone who had attended the internship. So a client, and said, oh, she's a really good Ayurvedic Vaidya, I should go there. This person called me and said, oh, you are the naturopathic person. I said, I'm not a naturopathic person. She's like, what is the difference? It doesn't make sense. You guys are both natural. So I try to explain to her that naturopathy, if I were to say I'm a naturopathic anything, it's illegal, because naturopathic doctor is considered an actual physician in 11 states of United in USA. And the rest of the places, they are not considered, especially in health restricted states. And Ayurveda is kind of headed there. So it helps us to know where Ayurveda is headed. And think about Chinese medicine. The Chinese people started coming to United States in San Francisco back in the 1800s, and then in the 18th century, in the 19th century, in the 1800s, and they've been around for a long time. So TCM, Chinese medicine, has been around for a long time. But even in 70s, it was not very popular. So anybody who went to an acupuncturist, they were just, woo-woo. It didn't mean anything. It had no respect. And now Chinese medicine, is considered a alternative doctor and is recognized in the United States. And Ayurveda is probably going to go through the same route, and probably it's not going to be legalized in every single state, just like naturopathy is only recognized in 11 states. But knowing where we are and what our future is, especially when we're in this country, is kind of important. I have no idea. I know we have our one student from Canada in this. I have no idea where Ayurveda is in Canada, but probably it is under the purview of complementary medicine, and Canadian laws are a lot more strict than United States. So I'm not sure where it's going to go, but it's probably going to go the complementary medicine passage. So today I have a pretty short presentation, and I'm going to take questions, and then Atul is going to do a little short presentation as well, and then he's going to finish it on Sunday. We're going to compare Ayurveda to Ashtanga Yoga. Just a very brief introduction, because we do it in detail later, and we have so many presentations on this. We will also compare Ayurveda to TCM, Chinese medicine. And, just very, very quickly, like a flyby comparison in differences in philosophies and origins. And the idea is that just because we practice Ayurveda, we will, 9 out of the 10 clients that come to you when you actually become a counselor or a practitioner would already be going to an acupuncturist, or already be going to some energy healer or Reiki healer, or they might be going for massage. So if you don't even know what the modalities, or they might be going to a chiropractor. So knowing where things fit in is really important. Ashtanga Yoga and Ayurveda sister sciences. This is a very popular thing everywhere. There's sister sciences. Actually, I like to think of them as sister philosophies. Ayurveda will use, Ayurveda comes from Sankhya philosophy. Yoga comes from yoga philosophy. They're two separate system of philosophies. They are nowhere similar according to the philosophy, but they use each other. Because they use each other and they're dependent, that's why they are sister philosophies. So, so the yoga textbook is Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And you had Maharishi Patanjali, and I'm not sure because I didn't make this presentation. It was one of our other teachers. I do not think it predates the Vedas. Absolutely not. But it is right there. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are right there with the yogic texts like Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads and Vedas. If you don't know what that is, put it up on the forum. We'll talk about it. Literally, yoga comes from the root word yuja. If you've been to a yoga teacher training, many of you have. It is the union of the soul with the divine. And yoga is not asana. Yoga is not asana. So there's 8 ashta anga. Ashta means 8 angas. So asana is only 1/8 of a yoga practice. Only 1/8. So there's all this yam and niyam and asana and pranayam and so on and so forth. So you have 8 angas or 8 limbs, and out of those 1 limb is asanas. In the United States, in the West, all that is popular is asana, 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 asana. There's the booty yoga, hot yoga. It just drives me up the wall. When people doing hot bun yoga. I've been doing a practice of yoga, and it's a very internal practice. Similarly, Ayurveda comes from is based on the philosophy of Sankhya, and it was first mentioned in Atharva Veda, and of course we talked about this. And just like yoga is union of Atma with the divine, Ayurveda is a union of, again, body, mind, and soul. It's kind of similar. You are not just union with the divine, but also looking after the body and mind. So let me see if I can annotate this. Here we go. So Ayurveda is going to use yoga for these purposes as a treatment, as a chikitsa. So Ayurveda uses portions of yoga, does not use like a yoga class. And when Ayurveda uses yoga for the specific purpose of healing, it is called Ayurveda yoga therapy. It's a new thing. You cannot do this in a class. It has to be individualized. For the body, you're using some asana, you're following some yam niyama, you're doing pranayam for breath. For mind, you're doing meditation. You're also taking herbs. You're using the yoga as a chikitsa, as a treatment. That's how they're connected. But when I talk about yoga, I am talking about actual traditional yoga, not the yoga that is now. I'm going to use my teacher's word here. And pardon my language, she uses the word bastardization of yoga in the United States, because my teacher's been doing yoga for 35 years. And when she did yoga, people didn't even know what yoga was. They just called it extreme stretching. So yeah, it's not that it's a bad thing. Okay. Let's see, we have a few. Goat yoga, are you serious? Hot yoga, yeah? Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me perfectly? I'm not going in or out? Okay, so it's probably you, Morgan, then. Okay, perfect, thanks. All right, so again, we are using the yoga as a chikitsa. Just to give you an example, if I have a client, they've come to me, they have a lot of pain. I might suggest some herbs for the pain. I look at their diet. Um, I'll probably suggest to do Abhyanga. Um, and I might suggest some gentle yoga that is suited for their body type. So for example, Vata resides in the colon. So anything that helps the colon, any asana that helps the colon actually helps the Vata. For example, Apanasana. Apanasana, Apana, Vayu, uh, literally is you take the knee and you are putting the knee over your colon and you're pressing the knee down on your abdomen. You're actually just literally pressing the intestine. So that's beautiful. Then Malasana, which is the garland pose, right? So you're bringing the vata down. Just to give you one example, for pitta person, pitta is in the liver. So we might suggest, you should do twists, because when you twist, you are working out your abdomen, you're working out your liver. We might suggest Bhastrika pranayam, fire bellow breath too sometimes, because when fire bellow or abdomen breath is going on, that is massaging your internal organs. So, the marriage of yoga and Ayurveda, and yoga will use Ayurveda for its yama niyama. So yoga uses Ayurveda and Ayurveda uses yoga, and they're interdependent on each other. And we can't really say that we can say they're sister also, but they're interdependent and they use each other, but they're coming from different philosophies. I hope that makes it clear. And I can answer the questions later. Okay. So there's a little chart thing here. Before I do, how many of you are yoga teachers? So I know how much to explain. One, Robin. Who else? Morgan, Ashley, everybody. So I don't need to explain. Oh, no. Okay. So maybe just a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's look at this. So the first limb of Ashta Anga, Ashta 8 Anga limbs, the first limb is Yama or Yamas. Yama, and then you have the subcategories of the different Yama. For example, this particular month, starting today's Purnima, till next Purnima, Atul and I and my son and a lot of our, a group that follow a kind of a yogic lifestyle, we're going to be doing a yama for 30 days. So, getting up early in the morning and whatnot. So we are doing a yama, specific yama. We are actually also doing niyamas as well. This is something you actually do it as a part of a lifestyle. And the first one, for example, is ahimsa. And is anybody perfect in that? How many times we look in the mirror and we are saying, oh, I look fat. Oh, I have an acne. So every time you do that, that's violence to self, right? So that's not ahimsa, but we are a work in progress. That's why it's called yoga practice, right? So yama is that foundation, and that's why you practice. You're not perfect, because if we were perfect, then we didn't need to do yoga. We've already achieved perfection. But the idea is that we are a work in progress. Let me get the spotlight here. So first, ahimsa. Himsa is violence, and this also the diet, trying to eat a diet. So herein, let's take this ahimsa. I don't know if you've had a time. So the ahimsa, satya, asatya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. It sounds like you're being very morally righteous sometimes. And even in movies, sometimes they'll show a yoga teacher and they're saying, they're oming and, they're making fun of the whole yoga scene because it sounds kind of morally righteous. But really, in this day and age, if we do not have morals, what do we have left? If there is something that is telling us same thing that the yama are telling us, Ayurveda is telling it. It's only telling us it in a different way. For example, there are 4 types of Ayu. Ayurveda, let me write that down. So 4 types of Ayu lifestyle. Ayurveda comes from Ayu, which means life. So there are 4 types of Ayu. One is first of all, Hit Ayu, which means we can say auspicious, inauspicious, unhappy, and happy. So this is Hita is auspicious, inauspicious, happy, and unhappy. Is the same thing. And to achieve this, we have to follow the yama. Does it make sense? Even though this is written, so this is how yoga and Ayurveda is connected. If I want to achieve a hit ayu in my life before I die in this life, then I have to have some standards, some ethical standards that I'm following, right? Which is first one is I'm going to try to not be violent to myself by words or by action or to others. At least I'm going to try, right? The second is truthfulness, and this is honesty. For me, this has been a struggle, especially because I love cookies. I will have 2 cookies and then I'll say I didn't eat it. I lied to myself. So I know that sounds funny, but you have to be brutally honest with yourself. So when I did my yoga teacher training, with my teacher, and of course I had already been doing yoga for a long time, there was in her yoga shala, there is no mirrors. And I'm like, why do you not have mirrors? She was the first person in the United States I saw who had no mirrors. Even in India, we have no mirrors. I mean, it doesn't even make sense why somebody would have mirrors. I mean, yoga is an internal practice. And she barely had any music. She would have music for Shavasana or something, but it was just the sound of her voice and the asana. And she wanted to hear each one of us breathe. And the idea is we can achieve the Ayu of Ayurveda, which is auspicious, by following the Yama and the Niyama. Asteya, non-stealing, meaning basically non-coveting, not coveting what another person has. So right here, I'm going to stop and say, if you've all been in a yoga class, you know how if there's a mirror, we're all looking, oh my God, that person is so bendy and I can't bend the way that person can. Immediately you have lost your yoga practice right there and then, because it's a personal experience. It is a personal journey for every single person. So if we are looking in the mirror and looking at that person on the side who is very bendy and we cannot do that, and how they're able to do Ashtavakrasana and take their leg and put it behind the ear or whatever they can do, and we can't do it, that is the second we have lost our practice there and then. The practice is internal and it's an internal journey, so we should never compare ourselves to others. That is part of a Sitteya. And that's how we achieve Hitayu. Similarly, Ayurveda is an internal journey. It is not just an internal journey for us as, me as an Ayurveda doctor or practitioner, or you as Ayurveda counselors. We are also have to practice that lifestyle of yoga and practice that lifestyle of Ayurveda. What is our dharma? We did the 4 goals of life: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. What is a dharma? Our dharma is that we are saying that I want to be a guide, where I guide a person through, become a medium, where my teachers and the gods of heaven and healing and angels are coming and helping these people through this practice of yoga and Ayurveda. How is that going to happen? So if our hearts are not open. So it's a spiritual practice. Even this education that you're taking, of course, we need to have certain standards because it is an educational course, but it's a spiritual practice, just like yoga. Learning Ayurveda is a spiritual practice. So living Hit Ayu, Brahmacharya, I mean, all of these, if you think the idea is to direct pran towards health and spirituality, keeping the panchakoshas clear. Does everybody know what panchakoshas are? Helps alleviate 3 kleshas. So one thing is, in yoga teacher training, sometimes the kleshas, they are talking about more kleshas, subdivision of kleshas, but klesha is basically suffering. Let me write that down. The kleshas are same whether you're learning it in a yoga teacher training or Ayurveda. It's 3 types of kleshas of suffering that you get. And I think when we did philosophical perspective of disease, Atul talks about these three kleshas. But there are certain subdivisions that are mentioned in yogic texts that are not mentioned in Ayurvedic text. But it's the same thing. They're just subdivisions of those three. If you know what I'm talking about, great. If not, I'll share. Yeah, I think we've already shared that philosophical perspective with you last time. Let's take this one. So let's talk about Ayurveda here. In order to maintain health and be happy, a regular routine is very important. So if you have been around children or if you have children of your own, then one thing you will know is, you know how children have a time for everything. You have bedtime, you have bath time, you have cleanup time, you have play time. Now this is dinner time, this is supper time. So there's a time for everything. And if a child, especially a young child, you take the routine away from them, they can't function. But as we grow up, we don't have a routine, and the routine is key to health. So dinacharya literally means a daily routine that we must have, things that we must do every day, every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. For example, we get up in the morning and brush our teeth. It is something that we do every day. And what is it if we add, what do we need in the dinacharya? We need niyamas. We need those lifestyle practices, which are Ashtanga yoga. So again, Ayurveda is using the practice of yoga, and it's using other things too, to help achieve balance. So it's using yoga as a therapy. Does it make sense? For example, purity, we all need to bathe every day, right? We must bathe every day, we must be pure. But Ayurveda goes ahead and says, the essential oils that we will use, for example, and what soap you should use. So it goes like one step ahead. Again, if you read my book, Essential Guide to Ayurveda, I actually have like a big section on dinacharya. Literally, I talk about when you get up in the morning, what you should do, how you should do your nasya, this, that. It's like a good 8 or 9 pages of daily routine. So if you do get time, you should read it. And this Ishwar Pranidhan Swadhyay, which are part of the whole observances, are part of our spiritual practices as well. And then you also have the Ritucharya, which are seasonal observances. That means seasonally that we do a fast. We do some austerity. And where is the fast here? We could do a yogic fast. We also do a fast with the diet. We do not eat certain foods. For example, right now, we're in the middle of fall, and it's Ritu Sandhi. That means we are going from summer to fall, depending on where we are. Some of you are already in fall, some are about to go in fall, some are somewhere in the middle. But the body is also changing. So we are using, again, yoga as a practice, also diet changes. And this makes sense how yoga and Ayurveda, they're kind of connected and they're using each other. Yes, no, maybe? Perfect. Okay. I am really not going to go through this because Sudevi, who's a yoga teacher, who's also my teacher, is going to do a class on Vata. And she's actually going to go through all of these. But just to, right off the bat, to help balance Vata, think restorative yoga and poses held longer. Not as much as Yin yoga, that's kind of extreme long, but longer so that you can kind of sit into and moving really and not having too much music. Very restorative, quiet, and slow. That's Vata. And it doesn't mean they cannot do vinyas. They can. It's not vinyasa, it is vinyas. The sun salutation is called Surya Namaskar. Everything is just slow. And again, Sudevi talks about it again for Pitta person, moon salutation, for Kapha, fast vinyasa, energetic practice. So these are just some of them, but of course we go through them in a little bit more detail later. So the fundamental concept is Ayurveda uses yoga, and the biggest thing that Ayurveda uses is pranayam. Let me annotate that. Okay, let me put it out to you, especially since we have a lot of yoga teachers. Pranayama breathing exercises. Why would Ayurveda want to use pranayama? For what? Why do you think we want to use pranayama? We understand asana is for the physical body, pratyahar, dharan, dhyan, meditation is for the mind, right? Calm the mind, cleansing. Absolutely, but that is not the main reason. The main reason Ayurveda wants to use, let's see if someone else got the connection to self. This is all right. This is correct. But Ayurveda uses pranayama for respiratory issue disorders. Let me write that. Absolutely. Those are also right. Everybody had the right answer, but the top answer is respiratory distress, disorders. Has anybody been, driving or somebody, or in a situation you suddenly get stressed out? What is the first thing that happens? Our breath, it goes up. Our heart rate goes up. Anything. And when I say respiratory distress, I don't mean in a clinical sense where a person actually has to go to a ICU. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that when you can't breathe, you're stressed out, your heart rate's gone up, there's adrenaline in the system. Yes, it'll calm the mind, but also things like people who have bronchitis, or someone who's had issues with lungs. So we call it pranavaha srotases, or issues with lung, basically lung support. Does it make sense? So Ayurveda will use pranayam for that. Why? Because in yoga, prana just means, prana, what does it mean? It means vital force, life force. In Sanskrit, but in Ayurveda, it has two meanings. It also means oxygen. And do we need oxygen or what? For someone who is Pandu, who is anemic, that person needs more oxygen. So we will ask them to do their pranayam exercise early in the morning in a garden, because plants have produced all this oxygen at night. It's like oxygen therapy. The idea is bring oxygen into the lungs by doing pranayam, bring it. There's diaphragmatic breathing, there's abdominal breathing. And we actually have an entire, Dr. Singhal is going to do that. She's going to talk about anatomy of your respiratory system and the pranayama in one of the lectures, and how we are going to use pranayama to basically bring in the oxygen. And not only will it help the mind, but it definitely helps your pranavaha shrotases. Pranavaha shrotases is basically starting from the nostrils, down to our lungs. We inhale, exhale, the process of breathing. So if there is congestion, or if you're not breathing okay, all of that. And of course, the side effect is it calms the mind. That's a side effect. But the primary is breathing disorders. Does it make sense? That's how Ayurveda is using pranayam. So in our yoga therapy, there's a lot of pranayam. There's a lot of pranayam. So the yoga therapy class you'll be throwing out in and out, through as part of this course. So that's like today we're already talking about the yoga therapy. Any questions about this? And the last but not the least, if you look at the goal of Ayurveda, dharma, artha, kam, moksha, right? And Ashtanga Yoga Samadhi. Moksha and Samadhi are synonyms. They're one and the same thing. It's just two Sanskrit words, means the same thing. Moksha means liberation from this physical body. Samadhi means liberation from this physical body and becoming one with the divine energy. Same thing. Same thing. All right, Ayurveda and TCM. This is probably going to be my last slide, because I spent a lot of time in yoga. I kind of ran out of time. Atul is signaling me that's his turn. So Ayurveda and TCM really complement each other. I mean, there are certain Chinese medicine techniques that can be very aggressive. I don't know if anybody has had anything done. Like if you've had gua sha, I don't know if anyone's had acupuncture. You have the smaller needles and the bigger needles and whatnot. But they really complement each other. They go very, very well together because they're looking at what the Chinese medicine call the meridians. So this is something you should definitely read about, because you will get clients who is going to be interested in coming to you for an Ayurveda consultation. Someone who's already been to an acupuncturist. They're both ancient holistic healing systems. We have the 5 elements. They have they also have fire, water, metal, wood. They have their own elements. Again, they treat the mind, body, and soul as one. We have Yoga Sutras in Bhagavad Gita. They have, I don't know please forgive my pronunciation, Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, Wang Di Ne Jing, which is their inner classic, just like we have a Charak and Sushruta Samhita written thousands of years ago. They also have thousands of years ago texts written. And then, of course, we have Jyotish, right? We have Vedic astrology, and they have I Ching. So we will use Jyotish and astrology. They will use I Ching. Our philosophy is Sankhya. Theirs is Taoism, which is basically yin and yang. We have the yin and yang, the male and female energy. That's the same as Sankhya. Purush Prakriti is yin and yang, male, female energy. We have the Pancha Mahabhutas, the 5 element system. And they also have similar, like I said, they have fire, water, air, metal, wood. It's a little different, but it's similar. Then what we call pran, they call chi. What we call tejas, they call shen. And ojas, they call jing. So pran is vitality, chi. Tejas is your inner glow and ability to transform. That's shen. And ojas is your immunity, and they call it jing. We have the Tridosha system and Dhatu, and they have the organ meridian system. We also have the meridian system, except we call it marmas. Any question? Okay, this another thing is, if you go to if anybody has been to a acupuncturist or a Chinese medicine, they will ask you, they will look at you, they will listen to you, they will smell, they'll ask, they'll touch, they will do tongue and pulse. So will we. It's very, very similar. We will do sparshanam, darshanam, prashanam. So we will do, I had asked I had asked you guys to review the so-called dosha test Vikriti form. And of course, you're going to do it in class. But I had asked if you've never done it before, please do it. And then I don't remember who had texted me, and I told them, I'm going to reveal to you a secret, and I might as well reveal it right now because I'm not good at keeping secrets. And the secret is the dosha test is only 33% accurate. Why? Because it's a 3-fold system. You have to touch a person to know their energy. You have to physically look at a person, look in their eyes, look at their tongue, observe them, and also do an interviewing, which is your questionnaire. So when you combine all of these 3 together, only then you can find a complete picture. So you can take 10,000 dosha Vikriti tests, Prakriti tests from 10,000 places. It'll never be 100% accurate unless the person has actually taken your pulse, taken your nadi. They have, for example, if you've come to me for a pain issue, or then I actually need to touch your marmas and see what's happening with your marmas and find out what's happening with your marmas. I need to, like a clinical observation. And I need to do interviewing. Like in Western medicine, there's a lot of history taking. I mean, there's a lot of focus on history. Similarly, in Ayurveda, we'll also do history, but we'll, we don't have a lot of tests. So there's a lot of focus on the Nadi Pariksha. Then we also ask you a question about your poop and your urine and your stool. And we want to know your Prakriti Vikriti. We want to know your Agni. Only then we can tell you what's happening. So it doesn't matter how many tests, even the tests that I've given you, it can never be accurate unless you're in front of me. How do I know? That is your secret. So if any of you have taken dosha tests before, and every time you take it, something is different, that's because we always change. Season change, we change. If anybody's had a baby, your dosha has changed. Post-baby, dosha is changing. Season changing, dosha is changing. We're getting older, dosha is changing. You had a surgery, dosha is changing. It's always changing. How do we know what's happening? By combining the threefold assessment. I'm not going to go into all of this because this is Ayurvedic pathology, but just to give you an example, we use Panchakarma, Abhyanga, herbal protocol, yoga, pranayam, aromatherapy, marma points. I have a little video that I want to show you after this. And in Chinese therapy, they'll do cupping. I do cupping. I don't use the fire. I used to do anyway. They do bloodletting. We actually do bloodletting in India using leeches, but in the United States we don't do it. Then there's tuina, which is like a massage similar to marma. Herbal therapies, herbal tai chi, we have marma, we have kalari. They have tai chi, we have kalari. They do the meridians, again we do the marma. They have the I Ching, we have the Jyotish. That's it. Any questions? That was my last slide. I just have a little like a 1 minute video that I wanted to share with you. I'm going to stop recording because it's just a video from YouTube.